Hello, I'm William Sanchez, and this is the Philosophical Rebellion Substack. This podcast is on the last 3 chapters of my book, The Stories They Don't Want You to Know. Those chapters are called Freedom of Thought and the Separation of Church and State, The Legitimate Purpose of Government, and A Revolution of Values. So starting off, society does not need to agree on a religion. We just need to agree on the freedom for individuals to decide their own religion for themselves. Individual freedom of thought is an indispensable aspect of Western values and the values of the scientific enlightenment. Combining government and religion harms both. Faith is corrupted by authoritarian tendencies, and states are corrupted when one religious dogma fights another for power. People who wrongly assume that compelling others to practice their religion is representing God's will are capable of doing heinous things. Or as John Adams put it, power always thinks that it is doing God's service when it is violating all of his laws. So even though the vast majority of the founders practiced some form of Christianity, they did not make the United States of America a Christian nation. Instead, they made it a secular nation, meaning there was no state-sponsored official religion and individuals were free to practice their own preferred religion at their own accord. So a lot of people have heard about Thomas Jefferson and his quote for the need for a wall of separation between church and state. But John Adams also said, "The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." And the main author of the Constitution, James Madison, clearly explained why. The purpose of the separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries. So the context for that quote is the Dark Ages in European history, and the centuries of religious oppression in Europe that led to endless war. Instead of creating a new version of that in the Americas, the authors of the Constitution, America's founders, created a secular state, with the separation of church and state becoming a fundamental aspect of American democracy. And it is also a fundamental aspect of the scientific enlightenment. So I believe in both the scientific and political principle of liberty in the domain of consciousness. Liberty in the domain of consciousness protects both freedom of religion as well as freedom from religion. Religion is not inherently bad, and for many religious people, their faith is a positive aspect of their life. We are all potentially gambling with our immortal souls, so I think every person should be entitled to decide their own religious faith for themselves. And since there is a possibility that you were not born into the correct religion, or you do not practice the correct religion now, I encourage everybody to become familiar with the major world religions. If you've never truly studied any religion outside of your own, how do you know that yours is the correct one? Anyways, the government is not supposed to be used to enforce any sort of religious dogma. The government should actually establish rules that allow individuals to decide their own faith for themselves and not be prohibited from practicing that belief system up into the point where it may harm other people. So then moving on to my next paper, The Legitimate Purpose of Government. And considering the founding of the United States of America, the colonies which became the United States of America declared their independence in 1776, then won the Revolutionary War in 1783, after which they created the Articles of Confederation to create a weak federal government. The founders won a revolutionary war against a tyrannical, oppressive government, so they did not want to create another tyrannical government. But a weak and ineffective federal authority led to too many problems. So next, the founders of the United States created the Constitution in 1787. And in the preamble of the Constitution, they said specifically what purpose government was supposed to serve. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So the legitimate functions of government based on America's founding document are securing liberty, promoting welfare, establishing justice, ensuring tranquility, and providing for the common defense, all with the intent to form a more perfect union. The founders were opposed to tyranny, not to government. The dream of America was not one of naive libertarianism, but to design a structure of authority which would genuinely represent the interests of the citizens and be accountable to those citizens. The federal government needed to be durable and imbued with significant power, so the struggle was to restrict government from becoming tyrannical with its power while also remaining effective and responsive to the ongoing needs of society. So they separated powers in 3 separate branches of government. Then James Madison defined a tyranny as the accumulation of all government's power in the same hands. And James Madison also said the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only guardian of true liberty. Ben Franklin said, "It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority." Because the founders knew that government was always going to be liable to be corrupted. So it will always be the responsibility of the citizens to question that government. Government, although necessary, will always be liable to be corrupted. No matter how good the design of the government is or what rules are in place, the use of government power should always be intensely scrutinized. The officials we elect to wield government authority, no matter who they are, should always be viewed skeptically. When government power is used illegitimately, it is up to the citizens to fiercely push back on the misuse and abuse of that authority. As Abraham Lincoln said, the legitimate object of government is to do for a community of people whatever they need to have done, but cannot do at all or cannot do so well for themselves in their separate and individual capacities. Then on to my next paper, A Revolution of Values. America is in need of a political, economic, and cultural renaissance. We need to reevaluate our priorities, laws, and societal norms. Scientific literacy, logic, and critical thinking are important tools to overcoming our divisiveness, and freedom of thought is the absolute bedrock of Western civilization. Authoritarianism is on the rise worldwide, and the fabric of American society is under attack through large-scale international psychological warfare. The divisiveness in America is by design. Today, significant alterations are needed to create a transparent federal government which truly works on behalf of our citizens. America requires constitutional reforms to restore citizen control over our federal government, but we as a society need to live up to the aspirations of our founders. No alteration to the Constitution should ever be undertaken lightly. Our goal must be to fix the flaws currently plaguing our government, not create more. And right now, the United States government is under the control of what Theodore Roosevelt deemed the unholy alliance between corrupt business and corrupt politics. America needs new laws, but right now, our laws are written by politicians who serve special interests instead of their constituents. The actual deep state is made up of billionaires, big businesses, and lobbyists representing a variety of special interests. So I believe Bernie Sanders' Saving American Democracy constitutional amendment is necessary to overcome not just Citizens United, but all of the bad Supreme Court precedent related to campaign finance. So we need a new constitutional amendment to make clear that corporations are not people and they are not entitled to human rights under our Constitution. Unfortunately, the truth is that there's no guarantee things will get better. Things could get a lot worse too. Over the long arc of history, there is progress towards better human societies, but there are also generations of setbacks. In order for human society to be on a positive trajectory, mainstream popular consciousness needs to be on the right side of history. There are four main evils plaguing human civilization: tyranny, poverty, disease, and war. Do what you can to oppose those evils and do what you can to be a benefit to your community. If the majority of people do that, things will get better. But we won't see much change during our lifetime without more dramatic steps taken. America is in need of constitutional amendments like Bernie Sanders' Saving American Democracy Amendment and a thorough overhaul of our laws and regulations. But the first step towards change is a revolution of values, and that's what a philosophical rebellion is all about. Rebel against misconduct and corruption, not against authority or power. Rebel against the evils which continue to plague our society, not against society itself. Do not engage in a naive, destructive, or violent rebellion, but a rebellion of thought. We need to rebel against the ways of thinking which hold humankind back. As Albert Einstein said, the world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. So that is the end of my book, The Stories They Don't Want You to Know, which is available on Amazon if you want to check it out.